My niece whispered, "People like you have no place at our table," and the whole family laughed. I calmed down, took my son's hand and left without saying a word. Later that evening my sister texted, "You're still sending money, right?" I simply replied, "People like me don't help." And they started going crazy. They ruined my mood completely, and it happened just 3 days ago at my mother's birthday dinner. It was supposed to be a nice evening. My son had made a card with pressed flowers. We'd picked out a soft shawl for my mom that matched the one she wore years ago in an old photo, and I even brought her favorite lemon cake from that place in town that charges too much. I tried. Always try. Every time, part of me hopes maybe this time will be different. Maybe they'll be kind. Maybe I'll leave feeling like I have a family. Instead, I ended up walking out of that house humiliated, silent, and gripping my son's hand tighter than ever. Rachel, my sister, hosted the dinner. She always does now, ever since she and her husband got that two-story in the suburbs. You'd think owning a house would make her humble. But all it's done is give her this unbearable smugness. The kind that leaks into every conversation, every compliment with a sharp edge to it. "You look nice today, Emily. That dress hides your shape really well." Her daughter Ava has become a smaller, meaner version of her. 14, obsessed with herself and constantly parroting the things she hears when she pretends no one's listening. I used to buy Ava birthday gifts that cost more than my grocery bill. Paid for Rachel's overdue car insurance once, and even stepped in quietly last year when their heating was about to get shut off. I never said anything. I never made a big deal out of it. Because that's what family does, right? Dinner was going fine. Stiff and too quiet in places, but fine. The table was crowded. My parents were there, mostly observing like they always do, and Rachel had invited a few of her husband's coworkers for some reason. So the whole thing had this weird showcase energy. Everyone pretending they were happier and more successful than they actually were. Then Ava turned toward me, smiling like it was part of a joke everyone was in on but me, and said clear as day, "People like you have no place at our table." It was so quiet for a second I thought maybe no one heard. But then someone laughed. Then Rachel repeated the line like it was hilarious. Her husband smirked. Even my parents gave that soft, polite laugh people do when they don't want to pick sides but still don't mind someone being hurt. I didn't say a word. I felt heat in my chest, in my throat, but I didn't let anything show. My son, bless him, looked up at me and whispered, "Mom, let's just go." So I stood up, quietly, took the shawl, the card, and the cake. I wasn't going to leave any of it behind. We walked out of there while everyone else kept eating. No one stopped us. No one asked why. That night at 10:42 p.m., Rachel texted me like nothing had happened. "You're still sending money, right?" No "hey, sorry about earlier." No explanation. No apology. Just the usual expectation. I stared at it for a second. Then typed, "People like me don't help." There was a pause. Then what? Then "You're kidding, right?" Then the string of messages came fast. "You know we're tight this month. You said you'd help. You can't just back out now. What's your problem?" I didn't respond. I was lying on the couch with my son. We were watching cartoons. I pretended everything was normal. But in my chest something had cracked. Something that had been stretching too thin for years. When he fell asleep I went into the bathroom and cried. Not because I was surprised, but because it still hurt after all this time. After all I'd done. And then I stopped. Wiped my face. Looked at myself in the mirror. And realized I was done. They wanted me to feel like an outsider? Fine. They wanted to laugh when their own blood got humiliated at the table? Good for them. Let's see what happens when the outsider walks away for good. The next morning I checked my phone and found 7 missed calls from Rachel, 3 from my mom, and a few messages that I didn't bother opening right away. I sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee in silence while my son finished his cereal at the table. He didn't say anything about the night before. He never does unless I bring it up. But before he put on his jacket for school he gave me this long look and said, "You don't have to let them treat you like that. You know that, right?" I nodded, even though part of me didn't believe it yet. By the time I came back from dropping him off, the messages were piling up. Rachel had started with her usual smugness. "You're seriously upset over a joke? Ava was just being funny. You've always taken things way too personally." Then came the backhanded concern. "We really can't be late on rent this month. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my banking app and canceled the auto transfer I'd been sending every month. $650. Quietly taken out of my paycheck to cover the difference between what Rachel and her husband couldn't manage. Sometimes more if something unexpected came up. A vet bill, a school trip, concert tickets Ava needed to be happy. It's strange how quick people are to beg when they think they still have power over you. By noon she sent another message. A photo of their new red car parked in their driveway. The caption read, "Guess we shouldn't have treated ourselves, huh?" Well, Hopefully it doesn't affect someone's mood again. Oh. That was the moment something really snapped. It wasn't just the car, it was the arrogance. The complete lack of shame. That car hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. I knew they couldn't afford it. Rachel had literally texted me asking for gas money the month before. And now they were flexing it like they'd earned something? I didn't reply. I didn't even open the message. I just deleted it and blocked her number for the rest of the day. That evening I made dinner with my son. Something simple, just pasta and garlic bread. While we were washing up afterward, he asked me, "Why do you keep helping them if they make you sad?" I dried my hands slowly and told him the truth. Because I thought if I kept giving, they'd eventually treat me like I mattered. He nodded, the way he does when he's trying to understand something that still doesn't make sense. Then he said, "You matter to me." That night I sat on the couch, opened my laptop and finally took a real look at my finances. The money I'd been sending Rachel every month could have gone toward a better place for us. Could have fixed the AC in my car. I could have started saving for my son's future instead of pretending that keeping her family afloat was somehow my responsibility. Around 10 p.m. her husband texted me for the first time in his life. Not a, "Hey, hope you're okay," or even a "Sorry for what Ava said." Just, "We're in a tight spot. Rent's coming fast. Let's not make this bigger than it has to be. We'll pay you back." They wouldn't. And we both knew it. I blocked him too. The next morning my mother called. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask about my son. She went straight into it. "Rachel's worried. She said you stopped helping with rent. Is that true?" I kept my voice flat. "Yes. It's true." She paused for a moment. Then, "Well, you know they're not in a great place right now. Ava's been struggling. They've got a lot going on." I felt this tight knot in my chest and for a second I thought I might lose it. But I didn't. I just said, then maybe she shouldn't be raising a daughter who insults the only person keeping their house paid for. There was silence. Then the line went dead. That night I started thinking more seriously. Not about revenge. Not yet. But about pulling away in a way they couldn't undo. No more quiet help. No more guilt. No more pretending we're a close, happy family just because we share DNA. They had made their position clear at that dinner table. Now it was my turn. By the end of that week, the silence from my side had started to bother them, and I could tell. Rachel started sending guilt-laced texts through my mom, who for some reason had suddenly decided to get more involved. It wasn't because she wanted to fix things. It was because Rachel had started to panic. The new car was sitting in their driveway like a trophy they couldn't afford, and rent was days away from being late. The day the grace period ended, my mom called me again. She says they're going to get hit with a late fee. Are you seriously going to let that happen? I was at the park with my son watching him draw spirals in the dirt with a stick. I kept my voice calm. I didn't let anything happen. They made choices. I just stopped cleaning up after them. My mom sighed like I was being difficult, but she didn't push harder. Because deep down she knew I was right. They all did. That same evening, Rachel unblocked herself just long enough to send me a photo of Ava sitting on the floor, holding a school fundraising packet with a caption that read, "She's not even going to make her goal now. Guess that's your win." There it was again. That desperate, mean little twist. Trying to make me feel guilty for their consequences. Ava was suddenly the victim now, even though it had only been 5 days since she'd looked me in the face and said I didn't belong at the table. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then I deleted it and didn't reply. That weekend things escalated. I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer, but they left a voicemail. It was Rachel trying to sound cheerful. "Hey, so just wanted to check in. I know things got a little weird last week. Ava's sorry, you know how teenagers are. Anyway, I was thinking maybe we could grab lunch next week? Just the two of us. Catch up. Let me know." I listened to it twice. Not because I believed she meant a single word, but because I recognized the tone. That fake sweet tone she only uses when she's really truly cornered. I didn't call her back. Instead, I did something small but final. There's a savings account I'd opened under my name a few years ago, back when I still thought about going back to school. I hadn't added much to it. Life got in the way. Rachel's problems got in the way. But that night I transferred $650 into it. It wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. And when my son saw the open laptop and asked what I was doing, I said, "Putting your future first." He smiled and went back to his drawing. 2 days later, Rachel texted me again. This time the tone had changed completely. "We're going to lose the house. You seriously don't care?" Then a second message. "I've never asked for anything. You've always offered." Then a third. "You're being cruel." That one made me laugh. Actually laugh. For not cleaning up a mess they made while they mocked me in the same breath? I didn't respond to any of it. And that's when something interesting happened. Rachel showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. She knocked like she owned the place, and when I opened the door and saw her standing there with that practiced look on her face, part sympathy, part pity, part calculation, I stepped outside and shut the door behind me so she wouldn't wake my son. She started talking immediately, spinning the story, brushing over Ava's words, pretending it was all just a misunderstanding. Then she said, "We're in serious trouble, Em. I know you're mad, but you're not going to just let us fall apart, right?" I looked at her and said, "You already did." Then I walked back inside and closed the door. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. And I wasn't done. After Rachel showed up at my apartment and I shut the door in her face, I expected the drama to keep escalating. More texts, more calls, maybe another stunt. What I didn't expect was how fast the cracks would start to show from inside her world. Not just inconvenience, but real, visible unraveling. 3 days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi Emily, this is Ms. Daly, Ava's school counselor. I was hoping we could connect briefly. Ava listed you as someone she feels close to." For a second I thought it had to be a mistake. I read it twice. I hadn't seen Ava since she humiliated me at the dinner table. Why would she list me? I hadn't exactly been warm since. But then again, Rachel had a habit of using people for show. Maybe she gave the school my number to make it seem like Ava had support from more adults than she actually did. Still, something about the message felt off. I replied, asking if everything was okay. The counselor responded, "Ava's withdrawn lately. She mentioned things have been tense at home. She's worried you might be upset with her." I didn't answer right away. I sat with it for a while. I thought about how quickly Ava had thrown me under the bus at dinner. I thought about the smug look she wore when she said those words, about how Rachel laughed like I was the joke. And now here they were, breaking apart at the seams. That evening I got another message. This one wasn't digital. A letter. Folded in 4, hand-delivered. No envelope. My name was written on the outside in Ava's uneven handwriting. It only had 5 lines. I know what I said was mean. Thought it was a joke. I didn't know it would hurt that much. Mom says I should apologize. But I want to, even if she didn't. I'm sorry. I hope you don't hate me. It hit harder than I expected. Not because it made things right, it didn't. But because it felt real. And for the first time it wasn't wrapped in Rachel's excuses. I didn't respond. I folded the note and put it in the drawer where I keep drawings from my son and receipts for things I don't want to forget. That's where it belonged, not ignored but not forgiven yet either. The next day something unexpected happened. Rachel's husband, Mark, texted me again. This time it was one word. "Please." That was it. I didn't respond. That same afternoon my mom called again. Not to ask how I was, but to tell me something strange. Rachel had tried to get a payday loan and was denied. They were officially out of options. They might have to sell the car, my mom said. I didn't say anything. Then, around 6 that evening, the biggest shock yet, my grandmother called. She never calls during dinner hours. But there she was, asking how I'd been, how my son was doing, how work was. Her voice was calm, but it didn't take long to realize she knew everything. She said Rachel had come to her asking for help. Rent money, grocery money, help with Ava's school fundraiser, even gas money to drive Ava to soccer practice. She told Grandma I'd turned cold and was going through something. And Grandma, without missing a beat, said, "I told her she's lucky you haven't gone scorched earth." I asked her what Rachel said to that. She cried. But fake. You know how she does it. Then she got defensive, then tried to turn it around on you. So I told her we're having Sunday dinner here. Everyone's coming. Including you. I froze. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said. "Oh, it's not about good ideas," Grandma replied. "It's about long overdue consequences. I've let her mouth run wild long enough. And now she's going to sit and listen." She was serious. She told me to bring my son, and that I wouldn't have to say a word unless I wanted to. That she was going to do the talking. And for the first time since that awful birthday dinner, I felt something unfamiliar. I felt ready. But that wasn't even the end of it. Later that night, as I was brushing my teeth, I got an email from Ava. It was a screenshot of a private message she'd gotten from a girl at school. The girl had copied what Ava had said to me at dinner, word for word, and was now using it against her. Mocking her for it. Saying she was as trashy as her mom. Ava wrote underneath, "I didn't know what it felt like to be laughed at by people who are supposed to care. I do now." I didn't reply. But I looked at that message for a long time. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about patterns. And one by one those patterns were starting to collapse. Sunday came too fast. I told myself I wouldn't go until the last minute. My hand was on the car keys before I even made the decision out loud. My son had been looking forward to it since Grandma called. He thought it was just a nice family dinner. And part of me wanted to believe that too, even though I knew better. We got there a few minutes early. Grandma was in the kitchen, rolling out pie dough like she wasn't about to drop a bomb on the entire family. She didn't say much when she saw me, just handed me a napkin and pointed to the table. Sit wherever you want. Just not the seat on the end. I already knew who that seat was for. Rachel and her crew started showing up not long after. My parents first, quiet as usual. They gave me polite nods like strangers in an elevator. Mark walked in behind them holding a grocery bag full of soda bottles like it made up for anything. Ava trailed behind him looking tired, pale, and 10 pounds lighter than the last time I saw her. Rachel came last, of course. Full makeup, big smile, loud compliments about the smell of Grandma's roast. Like nothing had happened. I could feel her eyes darting toward me all through dinner. I didn't return her look. We ate mostly in silence. My son chatted with Grandma about school. Ava didn't say a word. Rachel kept clearing her throat like she was building up to some grand speech. Mark just ate like he wasn't sitting in a room full of tension and landmines. Then halfway through dessert, Grandma did it. She put her fork down, sat back in her chair, and said, "Before we're done here, we're going to have a real conversation. As a family." The room stilled. Rachel blinked like she misheard. My mom looked away. Mark paused mid-bite. And I just waited. "I've watched this family walk all over Emily for years," Grandma said calmly. "And I kept my mouth shut thinking you'd all grow out of it. But after what happened at my birthday dinner, and after what's come to light since, I'm done pretending it's not happening." Rachel let out a small, forced laugh. "Grandma, come on. It was just a bad night. Ava didn't mean." "I'm not talking about Ava," Grandma interrupted. "I'm talking about you. Your daughter didn't wake up one day and decide to humiliate her aunt. She learned that from somewhere. From watching how you treat the person who has done more for you than anyone else at this table." No one spoke. Grandma went on. "Emily paid your rent. Paid for your daughter's birthday gifts. Sent grocery money, gas money, utility money. And how did you thank her? You raised your glass while your child told her she didn't belong." Rachel's eyes filled with tears on cue, but even she knew not to try her usual routine. The air in the room was different now. "You've used guilt, silence, and fake apologies to keep her in her place," Grandma continued. "And it ends now. You won't be getting another cent from me. Not for rent, not for school, not for Ava. You made your bed, Rachel." Rachel opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Mark looked like he wanted to disappear into his plate. Then Grandma turned to Ava. Her voice softened just slightly. "I got your letter. I can see you're trying to understand. That matters. But learning to apologize is only the beginning. What comes next is choosing to be better, even when no one's watching." Ava gave a tiny nod. She still didn't speak, but for once she looked like she was listening. Then Grandma turned back to the table. "I've been too quiet, so have your parents. But Emily is part of this family, and from now on she will be treated with the respect she's earned. Or you can all stop showing up entirely. I'm done hosting cowards." No one said anything. After a few long seconds, my dad got up and mumbled something about needing fresh air. My mom followed him out like always. Rachel didn't move. She just stared down at her hands like she was trying to piece together a comeback that wouldn't come. I stayed silent. Not because I didn't have things to say, I had years' worth. But because Grandma had said it all and said it better than I ever could. After dinner, as I was putting on my son's jacket, Grandma pulled me aside in the hallway. She handed me a folded piece of paper. It was a check. A large one. "I know this doesn't fix what they did," she said. "But it's time someone poured back into you for a change. Use it however you want. Start fresh. Move up. Just don't look back." I tried to tell her I didn't want her money, but she just waved me off. "It's not charity. It's long overdue recognition." We left just after that. My son was quiet in the car, then he looked at me and said, "She stood up for you." And I nodded. Yeah, she did. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and thought about everything that had just happened. Not just the confrontation. Not just Rachel's silence. But the shift. I wasn't just the quiet one anymore. I wasn't the helper. I wasn't the fallback plan. I had stepped away, and the entire structure they built around my silence had collapsed. And I knew one thing for sure now. I would never, ever go back. In the days after that dinner, the silence from Rachel was deafening. No texts. No calls. No sudden apologies. I wasn't surprised. She wasn't used to consequences sticking. Normally someone, me, Grandma, even Mark, would swoop in, smooth it all over and reset the cycle. Not this time. This time the air had shifted. The curtain had been pulled back. I spent that week quietly tying up loose ends. Transferred the check from Grandma into a new savings account. Not the old one I'd used before, but a clean start. I started looking at apartments in a better neighborhood. I even reached out to a local community college about evening classes. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was planning. My son picked up on it immediately. He asked if we were moving. I told him maybe. He grinned and said, "Can we be closer to the library?" It wasn't until the following Sunday that I heard from Rachel again. She showed up at my door without warning, again. But this time she didn't knock. She just left something behind. It was a shoebox. Plain taped shut. No note. I brought it inside, opened it slowly, expecting something stupid. A guilt gift. Leftovers. A pile of Ava's things meant to spark sentiment. Instead it was full of receipts. Rent. Utilities. Groceries. Guess. Year's worth. All in my name. All marked with little notes like M helped and paid by E. At the bottom was a photograph of the four of us from years ago. Me, Rachel, Ava as a toddler and my son, all sitting on a picnic blanket at the lake. Back when things felt simpler. Before the expectations turned to entitlement. There was a post-it stuck to the back. I went through everything. You gave more than I ever admitted. I won't ask again. I sat with that for a while. Not because it fixed anything. It didn't. But because it was the closest thing to a real apology I'd ever get from her. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The following week, Ava sent a thank you card to my son. She said she remembered the art supplies I gave her last Christmas, how much they meant, and how she hoped he liked reading because she was sending him a book she loved. Inside the card was a tiny paper crane folded perfectly. My son pinned it to his wall. And that was it. The final page turned. No grand reconciliations. No group hugs. Just quiet acceptance that the rules had changed. My mom called a few days later. I answered. She asked if I was really moving. I said yes. She asked if we'd still come to family holidays. I told her we might stop by. She was quiet for a moment and then said, "You were right to walk away." That might have been the biggest shock of all. A few weeks later we moved. Small place, nothing fancy but bright. Clean. Ours. I used part of Grandma's check for a new mattress and a desk where my son could do homework without balancing his papers on his knees. One night while we were unpacking books, he looked up at me and said, "You're happier now." I nodded. I am. And I was. Because for the first time in my life I wasn't waiting for the next insult, the next request, the next wave of guilt. I'd left the table where I wasn't welcome and built my own. And the best part? No one could take it away.